Hello and welcome to another video on Square. So Square recently released their earnings for Q4 in 2020 and that was released on Tuesday, just gone. When the earnings were released after market, the share price dropped pretty hard and it continued to drop harder than the overall market over the next couple of days. So I just wanted to do a quick video on what I think of the earnings, why I think that the market sold off more, why I have changed my price target very slightly, and where I think the company is going in the future. So just having a quick look through the earnings call here, the main highlights, obviously we're seeing growth, which is great, but when you look at, for example, the Cash App, their gross profit has been growing nicely and then sort of like dropped slightly / stagnated. And then we look at gross profits overall. Again, we've got growth there, but it's very minimal when you consider the previous growth over the quarters. So there's a little bit of concern in regards to that and whether that's pointing to declines in the future. And so looking through, other than that, we're seeing a lot of fairly standard results from what we would expect to see for this company. And as you scroll through the overall reports, we're seeing consistent growth on the platform year on year. Coming up here, what we're kind of seeing more is the fluctuations through the quarters. Now, obviously, all we can see here is 1 year and 1 quarter, so we're not able to kind of like see that general incline as it's growing year on year with regards to a lot of these figures here. So moving over to their adjusted EBITDA. So when we look at these figures, again, like obviously I've made the comment about the fact that, you know, we've got a little bit of a stagnation there. And then when you actually read through in this section, you'll see that 43 million of this was released from existing provisions for transaction losses in seller businesses related to the second and third quarters of 2020. So that is that money was held up from here, not being used in case of sellers not being able to pay their debts effectively, and that's kind of been released here, which has boosted earnings. Which has boosted earnings here, maybe more than they should have done in theory. So when you look at that, you kind of think, oh, hang on, actually then. So if that should be 143, that's a considerable drop from this one. Except from when you go back to last year, that also included 40 million for the same reasons from Q1 and Q2. So how that money is actually distributed, where it was taken from exactly, is quite hard to understand, because obviously this one had 40 million or 43 million from these two quarters. This one had 40 million from this one. So when it's had that 40 million released from these two, there's also been a chunk of cash taken from this one to go into this one. So it makes it a little bit harder to kind of really understand exactly how that money has transferred across and how we're seeing the growth. And then the next little bit of information that for me was really kind of like a big issue as such is that they've also announced that they've purchased 3,318 bitcoins at an aggregate purchase price of $170 million. Now, if you calculate that back out, that means that they have effectively bought most of their bitcoins for about the average price is about $51,000 per coin. Now, when you look at Bitcoin, you'll notice obviously the price at the moment, for them to have an average of 51, like what here, ish, means that they have effectively either bought lots between this point and say this point, or they've bought the vast majority of them right up here at 51. Now, when you kind of look at the whole kind of trail of Bitcoin and you think this quarter kind of seems a bit of a rubbish time as such. So obviously at the moment, that price of 51, they're currently at a loss now on that, so that they've lost cash on that for the current price. Now, the one thing that you need to think about is what is going to cause the price of Bitcoin to go up. So Bitcoin being a fairly finite resource, like obviously you can mine it to get extra coins out, but there is still a fixed number of coins that are released. Therefore, what you need to remember is the way to increase the value is to increase the demand for the coins while trying to remove as many coins from circulation as possible. So therefore, by buying a big chunk of Bitcoin and then also accepting it and allowing it to be used on the platform, should in theory cause the price of Bitcoin to go up even more. Now, many of you know I am not a Bitcoin bull. So there is no way that, for example, I would be buying Bitcoin right now thinking, Square, or the same as what Tesla are doing as well, that's going to push the price of Bitcoin up. Because although in theory it could/should do, there's still no guarantees, and to me it's quite a risky move. Not so risky for these two businesses due to the fact that obviously they're able to then accept these currencies in exchange for products as well, and so it's a way of them making money, not just off the initial investment. So there's a lot of different benefits for the company outside of just sitting and holding that cash. In the long run, I'm fairly confident that this will massively pay off for Square. Whether that necessarily means that the price of Bitcoin is going to climb massively, to be honest, I think even if it stayed stagnant at around $50,000 over the next couple of years, I think that would still massively help Square in that regard. So where does that leave us in regards to a price target for Square? Well, as you can see, obviously, a number of analysts here have a various number of different aims, estimates on where they expect the company to be over the next 12 months. Well, the highest one here being 380, and I think I'm fairly certain I'm going to blow that one out of the water, because my price target for Square over the next 12 months is actually 400. So I'm looking for Square to reach 400 within the next 12 months. Therefore, obviously, I personally rate it a buy or a strong buy, and that's part of the reason why it's in my portfolio at the moment. So that's my thoughts on Square. Let me know what you think about Square in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.